Thank you so much, Ethan, for joining us today. We're really looking forward to you sharing with us what Practice Ignition does. So my understanding is this is a solution to help practices onboard their clients. So let me hand over to you and take away. Take the screen, take whatever you need.
Thanks, Heather. Really appreciate it. And thanks for everyone who's joined in or is tuning in on the stream as well. It's great to be speaking with you. And for those who are watching the recording, I just introduced myself, but my name's Ethan and I've been working in the tech space for a little while and love to share some more of what we've been working on today. So I know there'll be a lot of existing customers on the call today. So hoping to shed some light on some of our new features and where we're going, as well as explain the solution for those of you who don't know anything about Practice Ignition as well. So I'll start by sharing my screen. We've been around for about 9 years now, and it was very much a solution that was developed out of an accounting business down in Sydney called Interactive Accounting. It's been quite a ride, as it is generally with tech businesses that grow quickly. And we've now got offices all over the place and a global team of over 100 people and over 5,000 accountants and bookkeepers who are using the solution. The most exciting thing to me, though, was the fact that we're managing over 500,000 client relationships, which to me, that's kind of the impact, I guess. And when we're looking for purpose in our jobs, as we all do, it's, look at the amount of relationships that we're able to influence between accountants, bookkeepers and their clients. So that's very much the aim of the game with Practice Ignition and kind of where we're at today. In terms of the key problems that we're looking to solve, it's very much as Heather mentioned, a client onboarding solution, but we're starting to branch out. For those of you who have been using some of the new features, you'll have seen that we're starting to go a step beyond just client onboarding. The solution's very much now geared towards client relationship management. And I don't know if that's an existing term or if we're making something up there, but client management, including the automation of onboarding, payments and workflow for accountants and bookkeepers and for their clients. You could almost go as far as to say is that it's debtor management as well, as we've got a whole payments arm, which I'll talk about in a second. But the core part of our business is that we're automatically generating bespoke engagement letters and proposals for every client. And we're helping you to do that in a matter of minutes rather than a matter of hours. And so quite often when we have a firm coming on board, their process would be they've got an engagement letter template in Word, which they're updating once every couple of years. The worst I heard was one that hadn't been updated for 15 years. So hopefully you guys are doing it more than that. But engagement letters, funnily enough, are actually quite important. And we've had a lot of discussions with the legislative bodies, the tax practitioners board, the membership bodies. They're actually quite important and an integral part of your client relationship, not just from a compliance perspective, but also from a scope creep perspective as well. So understanding what services are included in your engagement with your clients. More importantly, understanding what services aren't included in the engagement with your clients, understanding the fee schedule that's associated with that engagement, your expectations around ownership of data. If you're outsourcing any staff, there's a huge risk there if that's not in your engagement letter, so that needs to be in there. If you're using cloud solutions, the storage and the accountability over the security of that data as well. All of these things which are sort of ever changing as we start to use more apps and change the way that our teams are structured. Essentially, we understood that this was a really onerous process, right? So manually adjusting your engagement letter or building an engagement letter for every client relationship is just, it takes too long. It's not worth the hassle. Hence, you find a lot of firms, the vast majority of accountants and bookkeepers who have not really formally engaged their clients. They might have sent something 10 years ago when they started working with the client, but there's been no need to do it every year. So we provide this solution which enables you to easily kind of create these up-to-date bespoke engagement letters, have the clients digitally sign the proposal and engagement letter, and then automate the whole accounts receivable and debtor management piece off the back of that. So you can set up a custom schedule for payments, which I'll touch on in a second. And then with the integrations with Xero and Quickbooks Online, automatically raise all the invoices, reconcile the invoices, mark them as paid, and then with the workflow integrations, schedule the jobs and the relevant tasks for that engagement as well. So at a high level, that's that's what Practice Ignition does. Heather, did you have any questions before I move on to some of the new stuff? Does that
No,
all make
happy
sense?
you keep it all makes sense.
Awesome. So I guess the most exciting thing for me was that when the solution was originally developed, it was very much for a specific kind of accounting or bookkeeping firm. It was for the firms that are fixed fee. It was for the firms that are on Xero. It was for the firms that were like totally transparent with their pricing. Interactive accounting itself was very progressive, had all of its pricing on the website, which is pretty rare for a professional services firm. And I think there was an assumption when we originally started Practice Ignition that the industry would move that way much sooner than it has. And so, fast forward 9 years later, we've really developed and changed the software to accommodate for a whole range of billing combinations now. So whether you are billing in arrears or hourly or fixed price, the new proposal editor actually caters for that now. And so you can bill on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, quarterly, annually. You can combine those together. You can also bill on a per unit basis. So if you're wanting to bill, for example, payroll per employee is a good example of that. We can actually cater for all of those situations now, which is really good and exciting to me because essentially that the way that the system was structured previously was excluding a whole segment of accountants and bookkeepers who didn't have their fees structured that way from using the product and taking advantage of the automation and benefits. So we've really upped the ante on the flexibility. And from that, we've still got all of our invoicing and workflow integrations, which I'll touch on in a second as well. But the second thing, which, and I'm welcome to ask any questions here as well, because I know there's a number of customers on, but the second thing that was heavily requested from a large portion of our customers, particularly those in the UK, funnily enough, but also a lot in Australia, was the ability to present multiple options in your proposal. So if you guys are familiar with the Mark Wickersham pricing or any of those sort of 3 option style pricing methodologies, it's quite a common way to present options to clients, and whether that's a small, medium, and large package or different pricing methods, if it's upfront over a monthly basis or on completion of the work. Or a completely different pricing model. These are all ways that you can use the proposal options feature to not only like upsell your existing clients with new services, but also for your new clients, if you're not confident on pricing them up front, actually give them a range and allow them to self-select, which has been hugely popular. In addition to that, we've launched some new ways for clients to pay. And so previously, if you wanted to make use of the automated collections and invoicing and the like with Practice Ignition, you used to have to get clients to pay or agree to paying in the start, like in your proposal, which is quite daunting for clients who you've not engaged that way in the past. And what we decided to do was actually provide a way that they can actually sign the proposal without putting in their payment details, but you can still send them a link to digitally pay you following the acceptance of that proposal. So they're still signing your proposal online, they're still agreeing to your scope, your terms, all of the automation's still there, but they're not putting in their payment details at the start, which again was another barrier, I guess, for those clients that weren't used to engaging with their accountant that way or bookkeeper that way. It's been a huge help to them. So hopefully that all makes sense, and I'll show you some of the examples of what I've just talked about in the product in a minute or two, but I wanted to briefly touch on how we work with Xero. This is kind of representative of how we work with other cloud accounting solutions, but I'm using Xero as an example because I know a lot of us use Xero, but you could replace this with QuickBooks Online or actually just QuickBooks Online, because that's the only other one that we integrate with in this region. But essentially this sort of 5-step workflow is how it works with your accounting software package. So each of the services in Practice Ignition are linked through to the job templates within within Xero Practice Manager, and they're also linked through to the accounts in Xero Blue. When that proposal is signed, it then triggers the job to be deployed in XPM, which is then synced through from an invoicing and client perspective for Xero Blue and Xero Green as well. The invoices are created and reconciled. And what you end up with at the end is the ability to report on your productivity, your recoverability, your efficiency metrics through Xero Green, And then your front-facing metrics like your revenue pipeline and your cash flow management, and some other key KPIs for your business through Practice Ignition. So that's very much the core of our integration with Xero. In addition to that, if you're like Heather and you like to automate absolutely everything, and I've loved the automated Calendly messages that have been coming out about these sessions, you can actually link up through Zapier to Calendly, to any other solution that is integrated with Zapier to automate more of your messaging and client onboarding. I guess that the three main things that I like to touch on is the pain points that we look to address or alleviate for firms. So payment collection without the chase is a big one. I think I was reading the Good, Bad, Ugly report the other day, and the average lockup for your Australian accounting firm is still like 77 days, which is quite high, to be honest. And I sort of wonder why accountants and bookkeepers are potentially falling down the list as priority to get paid. And so we're trying to change the game in that front and help everyone get paid sooner. There's obviously then the burden of carrying those accounts receivable and all the invoicing and admin and stuff that goes along with that. So we're trying to alleviate that burden and then provide some insight into the cash flow for your business. So what's coming in each month, month on month. So those are the three pain points I wanted to focus on. If I just jump into one of the new proposals. For those of you who haven't seen a Practice Ignition proposal, I thought I'd give you an actual demonstration of what your clients will receive. And I always like when I was doing sort of demos of the product to firms, I'd always love to see their engagement letter template. And quite often it was something that chartered accountants provided them, or it was a Word document that didn't look overly appealing. But I think now more than ever, particularly over the last 18 months that we've had, your digital handshake with your clients is super important. Even if you are able to meet them in person, having that sort of consistent digital presence is really key to elevating your client experience. And so this is part of the proposal. You can now have videos, personal messages. You can have a brochure, which is outlining potentially some of the other services that you could offer your clients, a bit of background on your business, exactly what you're going to help them with. You can have multiple options, as I mentioned. So in this instance, your stroll, jog, or sprint, each of those are at different price points with different inclusions. So you can see the middle and the middle and top tier packages have got your tax planning and advice and annual reviews and some advisory in there as well, which is boosting the price. You can have a recommended service level as well. But when the clients select that, they then basically see a summary of all the scope of each of those different services. And so if there's ever any doubt or misunderstanding as to what's included in your package with your clients or what they're paying you for, if they're just giving you a call for an hour every week as a MyOb hotline support or something, you could actually scope that out in your engagement and make sure that you're getting paid for that work. We know that over-servicing and scope creep is a huge challenge, not only in accounting and bookkeeping, but across professional services broadly. The payment schedule here, which they're agreeing to, which is, as I mentioned, now super flexible, whether it's monthly, whether it's billed on completion or upfront or on a variable basis. The ability for them to put their payment details in, whether it's credit card or direct debit to pay you, and then digitally sign your terms as well, which is all automatically populated based on the services that you put into the proposal. So that's how it works. That's what it looks like. I'd love to take any questions. I know we're kind of approaching time at the moment, Heather, but if you have any questions, let me know. Just one final thing before I do look to wrap it up. The new client billing schedule that we have in the product has really changed the game with visibility over your client relationships as well. So if I jump into a client's file in PI, I can now see exactly, either if you're in a larger firm, which partner or manager, which client group. You can start to create tags. You can have total visibility over all the services they're engaging you for, the billing schedule, so exactly what their next invoice is going to be. You can adjust those invoices if you like. You can manage their payment methods. You can see all the invoice links through back to Xero, all of the workflows that are being deployed off the back of it. So it's really your one-stop shop for your client relationships. And what we're hoping to do is give you the ability for when your client calls up and asks you if you can help with something, you're not quite sure what you've engaged them for you to pull up PI, quickly punch in the name, see exactly what they're engaged for, see whether you need to amend their proposal or create a new proposal for that service. and then engage them properly for that work and make sure you're getting paid for it. So that's what we like to do. As I said, we've got over 5,000 firms now that are using it, which is great. Lots of those are in Australia and New Zealand, but we've been able to build out quite a robust support and implementation team as well. And so your sort of journey with PI will very much look like it's very much a handheld experience. You're going through the initial setup, you're going through your proposal creation and training your team. You're going through uploading all of your client information, syncing that across from Xero, and then working with you on a monthly basis to ensure that you're getting value out of the product. We know it's far too easy to sign up for far too many apps and not actually see them fully integrated and getting full ROI out of it. A great example being Heather's use of Calendly, because I am probably using about 20% of the functionality there with my instance of Calendly, but I'm paying for it. There's so much more that it could do. I just haven't sat down with anyone to set it all up. So that takes us to about 20 past. Heather, do you have any questions for me, or is anyone on the line with any questions? I'm more than happy to answer those if there are.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Ethan. So I do have one question is, yes, it will be about this video that Ethan has done will be available on YouTube by the afternoon. So for people who are not able to stay with us. And I am interested in one of the questions we ask everyone. It's not the nicest of questions, but what does it not work well with? Where would you not use PI?
Yeah, it's a really good question. We struggle to see value from the full integrated piece where you're still on sort of server-based or desktop-based accounting packages. So you can obviously still make use of the automation from the proposals piece, but in terms of getting that full invoicing capability and workflow capability, it's quite limited with like a MyOb AE or AO or any of those sort of solutions, just due to the APIs. And previously, if you'd asked me that question, I would have said if you're a firm that bills hourly, it wouldn't have been a good solution for you. But as of a couple of weeks ago when we released that feature, it's now relevant. So pretty much just for those firms that are still desktop bound. There's been another question come through as well. Is my account right live on the horizon? That's a good question, Melinda. Potentially. Stay tuned. I can't say too much yet as we're still in early stages, but definitely exploring that as a solution.
And you'll touch base with Melinda so she can be a beta tester.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So how often? Oh, sorry.
When you're ready.
Was that Scott? You go, Scott.
Yeah. You used to. This was a great trick that PI told me, that you used to be able to do a proposal and not create an invoice, so that you created an automatic debt recovery for your clients. And now I don't see that that's possible to do that. Obviously, you guys are moving to the new engine and all, and I just wonder whether that's still possible to do. The client's already got a debt, and then you want to create like a weekly repayment schedule for them or monthly repayment schedule by creating a proposal without creating invoices, and then it just direct debits them.
Yeah, you can definitely do that. So there's a setting in the final stage of the new proposal editor where you can actually switch off, like the ability to raise the invoices off that proposal.
Not the classic one, but now that's in the new proposal editor. Yep.
Yeah. So definitely that whole sort of debtor management thing and payment plan piece is still available. You just need to create a service which is repayments for XY service or whatever, and define your scope over that. So yeah.
Thank you.
No worries.
Hey, thanks for your question, Scott. And if anyone else has any other questions, we have had a question in the chat area, and I'm just wondering if, Nicole, whether you would like to jump on and ask that question.
I'm happy to answer that.
Okay,
Heather.
so read out the question so everyone can hear it then, Ethan.
Yeah, so Nicole has asked,
sorry.
yeah, sure. Nicole has asked, would you normally approach a practice that isn't set up and still bound with another partner like Xero to get them set up? So I'd assume that you're referring to, would we do like a joint implementation with Xero? I think I understand the question there. If you wouldn't mind clarifying, that would be great. But yes, that's something that we do quite often, specifically with Xero, if you're looking at implementing Xero Practice Manager as well. But if I misunderstood,
here she is. Here's Nicole.
Sorry,
hey, Nicole.
guys. I was just inquiring, because you said sort of your barrier to entry with some practices is potentially that inability to match with cloud and be able to use the full potential of the app. So would you look to partner with someone to help them sort of get through that process, or are they too far into the early stages of that for you to be able to use that service?
It's a little bit, the full migration from, that's a great question as well. The full migration from like a desktop to a Xero practice tools, that's quite a large, not only a change management kind of exercise within a firm, but also from a technical standpoint. So we tend to not try and be the expert at everything, although we've got a lot of partners that can help you get there. Clarity Street, Amy Holdsworth is one that we work with quite closely. There are a number of others that we work with as well who are experts in our solution, but also experts at moving off, your Sages and Handies and that sort of stuff to get onto the cloud tools. So yeah, more than happy to introduce you as well, Nicole, if you would like an intro to any of those guys.
Thank you.
I've popped a link to Clarity Street in the chat area, if that helps you, Nicole. And I think I don't like to necessarily talk about pricing, but I do think that that mindset that you talk about, getting paid up front, is really important. And I know that when you start in business, maybe you've fallen into you don't get paid up front, you get paid at the end. But once you do have that initial, I'm getting paid up front, it is a bit nerve-wracking, but then it just becomes an automated, expected, I'm paid up front. And I do remember, probably before your days at being at Practice Ignition, I was, Gillian and I were on the stand for PI at an ICB function. Collecting all the information and answering all the questions. And I remember a bookkeeper coming up to me. I know her name, but I won't mention it over the video. And she was like, yeah, I bill up front. She was hourly. She was billing up front for everything. And she said she would just do it in 10-hour installments. She was like, I'm not doing anything unless I'm paid up front. So, and that's how she was massaging the system back then. So I thought that was really smart of her to do that, because it's just one less thing in the process to be worried about.
And it's even, Heather, the collections piece of it. Now that's sort of one piece of the puzzle, but it's actually like it's more of a mindset thing and how you work with your clients, I think, is the broader issue, because it's not just plugging in a bit of software that's going to automatically direct debit them every month. It's what sort of expectations are you setting at the point of engagement with your clients? If you're sort of not explicit about payments and when you expect to be paid and how that's going to work with your arrangement, then of course it's going to fall to the bottom of the pile. One thing I would say though, anecdotally, because joining PI, that was one of my biggest questions was, is this actually, do many clients push back against this style of billing? And you'd be very surprised at the percentage of clients I think that would push back. From my first-hand experience speaking with firms, it's generally sort of between 1% and 3% that might push back on paying this way. But it's more so, the more important thing is getting the scope agreed to upfront, making sure you've been explicit about that, making sure you're explicit about what's not included, so that when there is scope creep or they're asking you to do some work that's outside the agreement, you're confident and you're able to refer back to your engagement letter and say, hey, we're not actually engaged to do this for you. But if you sign this next engagement, I'd be more than happy to start on the work for you. So yeah,
absolutely. And just keeping across that scope creep, because you just hear about so many people going, oh, I've just done all of this work and I need to bill them now for 20 hours. And you're like going, oh my God, that's going to be really hard. And I get this a lot, but I'm not sure whether other people get it, but the help desk thing, people think that I represent Xero, I am Xero, and that they can just send me messages. I've had people scan copies of my book, send it to me and ask me to explain page sort of 37 to them. It's like, no, you don't want to be a help desk unless you're charging for it. So yeah, and
I think the really challenge is that point. Because you just, by nature of the very work that you're doing, you're wanting to help your clients. That's sort of the number one focus. So I think the tendency can be to definitely to over service in that sense and go above and beyond, which is great, and that's fine. But we've seen some pretty phenomenal write-off figures, like, upwards of $150,000 of work that's just being written off in some instances because, they priced it wrong, or they ended up doing all this work and the client can't pay for it. It's a real problem. And when you look at the stats broadly across the industry over, work in progress and debtor days, and it's seemingly quite a pain point for a lot of folks. So hopefully not just with our solution, but that change to the way that you engage with your clients, it will help with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, does anyone else have any questions? Please jump on the video and ask them, or jump in and ask them. So I do think that within terms of pricing, it's a horrible it's a horrible conversation to have up front, and you need to really, this is a great way to do it, to use this actual solution to actually have that and be frank about it. It is interesting how many services that you have. Like, I just had skin cancer, so skin cancer dealt with here, and you have no idea how much it's going to cost you until afterwards. Because no one will tell you anything about these things, but that's it. That is interesting. Now, does anyone else have any questions for Ethan? Please jump on if you do.
I will just mention as well, there's a large number. We've got a lot of offers happening at the moment if you're not a customer yet. So whether that's sort of subscription offers we've got in the lead up to end of financial year, or particularly with payments processing as well, we've got a pretty exciting offer coming out as well. So if you're sort of on the fence and looking to test the waters, in addition to the 14-day free trial, it's probably a good time to get started if you are interested. So just let me know, or shoot me an email or something if you did want to get started, and happy to share more on what's available there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Could you touch on, for people who are listening in, how you have developed a relationship with CAANZ and how you're able to offer their engagement letters through PI?
It's a good question. Yeah, we've got relationships with the majority of the membership bodies that are out there. And again, kind of touching on that point of, it's a bit of a clunky process, pulling their PDF or Word engagement letters into, and kind of, adding your own text and doing that manually for every client. So we actually developed relationships with CPA Australia, CANZ, still speaking with the IPA, and then globally the ACCA and ICAW and all those other ones that are out there, all the acronyms. we have actually integrated their engagement letters in our platform. So if you're a CANZ member and you sign up with Practice Ignition, you'll automatically get their engagement letter template in the product for you. Which basically means that like 80% of the work's done. You just need to sync your Xero file, sync your clients, and add in which services you're going to use, and it's pretty much set up and ready to rock and roll. So that's been a great help.
Absolutely, and gives you a lot of confidence because you know that you've got the sort of the security and the backing of the professional association. One of the other things, and I know I'm sounding like a cheerleader for PI, so I apologise to people listening in for that. But one of the other things that I think that's really great about PI, in terms of the development of the relationship with the client, it's one of the first things they see is this sort of wow, this digital experience, and this is how we're going to have a relationship, and you receipt the sort of the engagement letter, and you're going to deal with them electronically, you're going to sign it electronically, and of course you can have your in real life or virtual communications with them. But that's, I think, really quite powerful in setting the tone of the relationship, rather than receiving a big yellow letter with 40 pages for you to sign every page of, and then scan it and then send it back to someone.
Yes, particularly if we're wanting to present as being, tech savvy and digital. Yes, definitely agree. The whole e-signature piece is, there's a lot of solutions out there for e-signatures as well at the moment. And so I think it's probably worth differentiating that, it's not just a platform for e-signing your documents. Like, it's actually the whole idea of it is it's automating the creation of your engagement letters and proposals, not just you're plugging into your, you're uploading your PDF document and they can digitally sign. There's DocuSign and Anature and a whole bunch of solutions for that. So, Yeah, that's kind of where we sit. Michelle's asked a good question. If you are using Practice Ignition and you would like access to those templates, just let us know. If you could either send me an email, or if, I don't know if you're happy to share your email via the chat, I can get in touch, but more than happy to add those CANZ templates or CPA templates to your account if you are. So just let me know.
Awesome, some time saving there. Now, does anyone else have any questions for Ethan? Otherwise, I'll ask him how can people best get in touch with you or with Practice Ignition?
Cool. Well, I'll share my email address in the chat here. If anyone has any specific questions, feel free to shoot me an email. We've also got the 14-day trial. So on our website, if you would like to sign up, which again, I'll put the link in the chat here for you. You can do that there. But best step would be sending me an email or jumping into a trial, and then we can get in touch and understand what you're trying to achieve and whether we will be a fit.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Ethan, so much for joining us today. If there's no more questions, I'll end it here. No more questions.
Thanks, Heather. Great to be here, and thanks very much for having me.
Really. Oh, Diane, do you have a question? You just wanted to
Diane.
wave at Ethan. Excellent. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us.